this screencast is going to help you with your exam, which is in the afternoon of May the 15th. The exam's going to be 1 hour long. You'll be in the exam hall, and it's going to contribute to 40% of your overall GCSE grade, with the other 60% being your controlled assessment. In total, you can get 40 marks, which is divided into two sections. You've got section A, which is worth 20, and section B, that's worth 20 marks as well. So this is what the front of your exam paper will look like. You'll be asked in the exam to fill these details in. Don't worry about that. The invigilators will tell you how to do that. The important bit is that you're using a black pen and that you follow these instructions carefully. Again, the invigilators will go through that with you. Okay, so first of all you have section A, and they advise you to spend half your time, 30 minutes, on section A, and it's half the marks, 20 marks. These are usually made up of those 10 low mark questions that we've been practicing over and over. Now you need to spend a minimal amount of time on them, try and answer them, do not leave any gaps because they might be easy marks for you to get. Here is everything that they could ask you about in that section A. Hopefully you notice that these three topics are the three titles of the A5 sheets that you've been revising. They can only ask you about these things in section A and nothing else. So make sure you know all of these parts inside out. The second part of section A is the sources section, where they present you with a source or sources and they'll ask you some questions about them. Read this very carefully. You can underline if you want to as you're going along important information. Then there'll be questions worth 10 marks, which is the other half of the 20 in section A, and it's usually low marks, 3 marks, 2 marks, 1 mark answers. Also there might be a slightly longer one, a 4 mark answer. You can see here how much space they've given you. You do not need to be writing lots and lots. Make sure you read the question carefully. So in this example from last year's exam, it says that you should outline 4 types of discrimination. They're not going to give you 4 marks unless you give 4 types. So make sure that you read the question carefully, and also you check how many marks that they're worth, so you know that you can spend that amount of time. You can see here the lines. Don't write outside of the lines because your paper is going to be scanned by a computer and it won't be able to scan outside the lines. Section B, you've got a choice, either to answer question 3 or question 4 or question 5, and this is the other half of the time and the other set of 20 marks. Choose carefully which you want to do. Don't be tempted to think, oh, if you do some of 3 and some of 4, that'll be okay. You will only be marked on one of them, so spend time on one of them doing your best answers. Don't try to do 2 or even 3. So we've already been told what your question 3 or 4 or 5 is going to be on. These are the big A3 sheets that I've given you. Make sure you know these inside out. So you will have a choice in the exam. Either do the one on British values, or the one on young offenders, or the one on NGOs. You will have a choice. So it's important, same rules apply. Read any of the sources that they give you carefully. Read your questions carefully. So this 6 marker is 1 argument for and 1 argument against. So you've got to give fors and against. Read it carefully, use the space, and you want to show the examiner you know what you're talking about. So use your knowledge and your keywords to impress them. In the section B is your big 12 mark question. The same rules apply. Read the question carefully. I've put together for you a list of possible formats for the question, which is 12 mark, which is on Edmodo. Read this carefully and practice some of them using the guidelines that I've given you. There's also the mark scheme for the 12 mark question, so you can see how to get the top marks down here. That's what you need to do in that time. So finally, the most important things are that you read all the questions and all the sources carefully. Don't leave any gaps, always write an answer. Only use the space given. You shouldn't really be asking for more paper because you shouldn't need it unless you have huge writing. And if you have time at the end, check through your answers and check that you've put an answer for everything. Good luck.